Women in Syria have reportedly been sexually exploited by men delivering aid on behalf of the UN and international charities. A new report has revealed that the abuse is still going on in the south of the country, despite warnings aid bosses 3 years ago. Aid workers said the men would ask for sexual favors in return for food and lifts, and that the exploitation has led to some Syrian women refusing to go to distribution centers. It is the latest in a growing list of allegations which have rocked the charity sector since the Oxfam sex scandal came to light. She heard that male consul workers in Dara'a and Quneitra were offering aid to women in exchange for sex, she told the BBC. They were withholding aid that had been delivered and then using these women for sex. Some had experienced it themselves. Some were very distraught. I remember one woman crying in the room, and she was very upset about what she had experienced. Women and girls need to be protected when they are trying to receive food and soap and basic items to live. The last thing you need is a man who you're supposed to trust and supposed to be receiving aid from, then asking you to have sex with him and withholding aid from you. It was so endemic that they couldn't actually go without being stigmatized. It was assumed that if you go to these distributions that you will have performed some kind of sexual act in return for aid. Sexual exploitation and abuse of women and girls has been ignored. It's been known about and ignored for 7 years, she said. The union and the system as it currently stands have chosen for women's bodies to be sacrificed. Somewhere there has been a decision made that it is okay for women's bodies to continue to be used, abused, violated in order for aid to be delivered for a larger group of people. UN agencies and charities said they were not aware of any abuse by partner firms in the region and that they had a zero tolerance on exploitation of this kind. But the United Nations Population Fund (UNFPA) commissioned a report which revealed abuse in various parts of Syria. The report, entitled Voices from Syria 2018 said examples were given of women or girls marrying officials for a short period of time for sexual services in order to receive meals, distributors asking for telephone numbers of women and girls, giving them lifts to their houses to take something in return, or obtaining distributions in exchange for a visit to her home or in exchange for services such as spending a night with them. It added women and girls without male protectors, such as widows and divorcees, as well as female IDPs, internally displaced persons, were regarded as particularly vulnerable to sexual exploitation. Another report by the International Rescue Committee (IRC) found 40% of 190 women they surveyed had said sexual violence was taking place. Both reports were presented at a meeting of UN agencies and international charities in Amman in July 2015, a few months later. In June 2015, the International Rescue Committee (IRC) surveyed 190 women and girls in Dara'a and Quneitra. Its report suggested about 40% had said sexual violence took place when they were accessing services, including humanitarian aid. An IRC spokesman said the assessment concluded that sexual violence was a widespread concern, including when seeking access to various types of services across southern Syria. These services included the distribution of humanitarian aid. The reports, both of which have been seen by the BBC, were presented at a meeting of UN agencies and international charities hosted by the UNFA in the Jordanian capital, Amman, on July 15, 2015. As a result of this meeting, some aid agencies tightened up their procedures. The IRC said, within our own operations, we launched new programs and systems to better protect women and girls in southern Syria. Those programs continue to be funded by a range of donors, including DFID, the UK's Department for International Development. The charity CARE expanded its monitoring team in Syria, set up a complaints mechanism, and no longer hands over aid to local councils. It also asked various UN agencies, including the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs (OCHA) and the UN High Commissioner for Refugees (UNHCR), to investigate further and set up new reporting mechanisms. But CARE was refused permission to carry out studies in Jordanian refugee camps. Ms. Spencer claims the aid sector turned a blind eye to ensure that aid still got into southern Syria. The UNFPA, UNICEF and UNHCR all admitted that they were aware of various allegations of exploitation in Syria.
Tell me where the freaks at.